everyone. Kristen David here, and I am joined today with Jordan Ostroff with Legalese Marketing, and he and I are going to talk some more about this ongoing discussion about how to stop the marketing train from totally derailing. So, Jordan, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. So, earlier in the week, I talked a little bit about how the marketing train can quickly go off the rails and some of the things that we have seen. And I know you are both an attorney by trade, but also have gotten into marketing and have a very successful marketing company these days. And you've seen all kinds of these train wrecks as they show up on your doorstep. So I wanted to give you a chance to maybe share a little bit about some of the things that you've seen that poor lawyers, I mean, listen, we don't know what we don't know, but they often are paying for services and not getting any results and not really getting the help they need. Tell us about some of the clients that show up on your doorstep.
Sure. I mean, look, for me, the reason I have a marketing company is because I was on that train derailing so many times with so many other companies. So I know on Tuesday when you went live, you talked about the first two things you talked about, no ideas when info comes and no hard numbers. That is the two biggest things, or the two at least quickest red flags that you can see. I mean, I have talked to clients who have had a prior marketing company for 6 months, have never talked to them after that. They just get emailed some sort of gobbledygook, Google Analytics with no idea what anything means, with no idea what anything's progressing on, with no idea that that even matters to their ideal audience in any way, shape, or form. They might get a thing that says, "Hey, you're on page 1 on Google for 35 searches." But if you're an estate planning attorney and you're on, 35 pages when it comes to criminal defense or probate, and you don't do that part of it, that's no good for you.
Yeah.
So I love that concept of make sure you know when you're going to get the information, make sure there are hard numbers, make sure you understand what those numbers mean and that they can show progress. Because ultimately, I'm a firm believer that a lot of the marketing efforts are going to take time. If you're growing brand awareness, if you're building up an audience, if you're creating that sense of community, but you should see numbers that show progress and know you're getting closer towards those things.
Yeah. And that's one of the things with like, A, it's bad when there's no info at all, but B, it's almost just as bad when they dump a bunch of gobbledygook at you and it's like not even knowing where to start. So what do you suggest people do? Like when you're talking to one of your clients, like how do you help them break down the information, or how do you give it to them in bite-sized nuggets so they can understand and comprehend it?
So we do things a little bit differently. Again, I go back to because I've been through it on the client side so many times and it didn't work. So our biggest thing is, look, at the beginning, we're really going to talk about that ideal client avatar and who that is and how you get in front of that person. And we're going to explain how our efforts go with that. But then on the back end, a lot of what we do is putting together some sort of CRM that will actually track all the marketing efforts in real time.
Yeah.
Because leads are great, but hired clients are what pay the bills. And so it's really important that, if you get 75 leads and close none of them, you spent a bunch of money to waste a bunch of time. And then I love the concept of when you've got that CRM integrated with all of your leads, you're seeing in real time who's clicking on the ads. You're seeing in real time what consults are being booked. You're seeing in real time which of those clients are hiring. And it makes it such a better process for you and for the marketing company.
Mm-hmm. So I love that. I'm just popping that up on screen. It says leads are great, but hired clients pay the bills. That's like my new favorite quote.
There we go.
But yes, I mean, I think understanding, having commonality, and I think this goes to that tip I had last time of good communications and timing. And if listen, everybody, it's whether you're interviewing a bookkeeper or a marketing vendor, or you're just even on your own marketing team, like you've got to have good communication. You've got to make sure that you guys are all talking on the same page, because if one person's up here and the other person's down here, that makes it really hard to have consistency and to really communicate well. And so communication is key. I would just reiterate that one again and again and again. So I'm sure.
For a second, though?
What?
Can I jump on that communication part? Because that needs to happen in both directions. The company needs to be communicating to you what they're doing, but also there are certain things that you need to be communicating back.
Yeah.
For example, if you are a hyper targeted niche, if you're dealing with estate planning for, firefighters and police officers in your community, and there's an opportunity to sponsor an FOP event or the 5K or something along those lines, you need to let the marketing company know about that opportunity and get their thoughts on it, because that may be the ultimate thing to add on to a campaign you're already running, that they can see you in person, boots on the ground and whatnot. So
Yeah.
think of that communication going in both directions.
Yeah, and I think that, and listen, no judgment. I do it too, where I get on with the Facebook, ads team, and I'm like on this little thing, and they have to prompt me like, Kristen, what else are you doing? Hey, can we use one of those photos? Can we get some video of that? Can we, it's about repurposing what you're doing and being in alignment all together as a company, not having these little silos with the different marketing vendors. At least that's my experience. So the other thing that we talked about last time a little bit, that's like a sign that the marketing train's about to derail, is you start getting really spotty results. Talk about that a little bit. How do we deal with that? How do we stop the train from going off the rails? Like, if you start seeing spotty results, what are some of the best practices you tell your clients to start engaging in?
Yeah, so I did a presentation on the 7 most common reasons your marketing doesn't work, and this goes right into that. So when you're getting these spotty results, there are some things that are fixable. There are some things that are just some things that just need more time, and
Yeah.
there are some things that are totally wrong. And the problem is figuring that out as quickly as possible so you're not wasting more money. And so I always try to walk back from the beginning through the whole process. So that becomes a question of, do we have the right audience? Are we running on the right platform? Are people clicking on the ad? Are people going through the landing page? Are people booking the consultation? Are they showing up? And by going through that in chronological order, usually you can see where the issue is.
Yeah.
If nobody's clicking on the ad, then you've got the wrong ad, or you're in the wrong area, or you're not putting enough money behind it. But a lot of times you'll see people doing that, but then they're not booking a consultation or a call from the website because you don't have a good landing page, or they're wandering around your website too much. And so by going through those step by step, it really helps figure out where that, broken link is in the chain. And then obviously sometimes it becomes, they will get to the consult and be completely the wrong client. And then you've got to figure out that part of, how did
Yeah.
they get into the funnel,
Yeah.
along those lines. And so that's the most common issue. A lot of people talk to me every now and then about getting absolutely nothing, but that's a lot less common than getting bad results or inconsistent results. There's always going to be some ebb and a flow, but the more that you have it dialed in, the longer you run with it, the more that you're tweaking the campaign over time, the more consistent the results will be based upon number of impressions, number of calls, number of bookings, number of consults, whatever it's going to be after that.
So I love what you said there of like, break it down for each phase of the funnel, because that's where we see those gaps, like the blaring. And I can't tell you, I mean, I've coached thousands of business owners, and I was just sitting down earlier this week doing a 3-hour strategy session with a lawyer, and we went through that, and it was like there was this huge gap going on, like tons of things were happening, and then all of a sudden it was like a big vacuum sucked all the leads out, and nobody was coming past that point. And I said, what's going on? And we started talking, and the human that was doing the job had been very unhappy with what they were doing, and had ultimately, like last Friday, gave notice. And I was like, well, I think we just solved probably part of our problem. And so sometimes you can break it down and figure out exactly, what was causing it. Sometimes it takes some work to figure that out. So what are some tips for people of kind of getting back on the track? I mean, sometimes it's getting in and like reworking the system. Sometimes you need a fresh pair of eyeballs. I think it's good sometimes to get like a fresh set of eyes on the situation to kind of go, this doesn't make sense, or, have you tried this? How often do you see some of that going on, where people come in looking for a second opinion, or they want you to do an audit, for instance?
Yeah, I mean, all the time. I will tell you 99% of the time, burning everything to the ground and starting from scratch is not the right option. It will happen every now and then, but that is so infrequent. For the most part, it's either going to be learning that something didn't work or it's going to be tweaking something. There's something in there that we can gain from the data
Yeah.
that you had. If you're the estate planning attorney trying to get in front of people with $10 million or more in assets and you've been running Google ads, okay, so maybe that's not the right ad set, but maybe we like some of the language in the ads you're running. Maybe we want to tweak that and really drive that for, financial advisors, for you to build that referral relationship, explain the benefit that you've got to offer those clients from that standpoint. There should still be something that comes from it. So we end up doing a lot of those audits because ultimately, look, Google wants you to use Google. So they're going to collect so much data. Facebook wants you to advertise on Facebook. So they collect so much data. So there's something to be learned even from ads that go so poorly at the end result.
Yep.
We'll see things about you got a ton of exposure, or you got a bunch of clicks, or you got a bunch of calls, and then we can see, where those buts become slight tweaks to make instead of having to redo everything from scratch.
Absolutely. And I think that's a great takeaway that I hope everybody's really listening for, is that even if it sucks, even if it didn't go as planned, find the silver lining. There's data there that tells a story. There's things that we can learn from that. There might still be good nuggets in the text or in, the copy, but it didn't work with that picture. I mean, this is the value of A/B testing too, of, starting to see like, okay, this worked, but this didn't. And, marketing, there's always so many different parts of things. So one of our users said, post up there, important to always be aware of all the digital marketing trends. What worked 6 months ago might not work today. Absolutely. I mean, that's part of always pivoting. I mean, you're constantly, Jordan, growing a business, you're always recorrecting and navigating your way as you go. One of the other questions that was popped up that I missed earlier was asking about the CRMs you were talking about earlier. Can you share a little bit explain what a CRM is for people, and what are some of the most typical ones that you see, for instance, lawyers working with?
So a CRM technically is a customer relationship manager. I call it a client relationship manager for our purposes.
Yeah.
Subtle difference, and the acronym still stands.
Yeah.
So for that, you're looking for a program that is truly designed for the intake process and to sign up clients. So I would say the three most common ones in the legal industry would be Lawmatics, Lead Docket, which now is linked with Filevine, and Clio Grow, that used to be Lexicata, that is linked under the Clio platform. There are a ton of attorneys using the non-lawyer versions of CRMs, HubSpot, Keep, I guess I was going to say Infusionsoft, but now Keep, along those lines. But it is a program solely designed for the lead side of it. So we're not talking about Clio or Practice Panther or Smokeball. We're talking about the lead aspect of this.
And I will say something about, I do, whether lawyers or other business owners, I'm constantly talking to them about the value of integrating the softwares, because you want the softwares to communicate. It can save a half a human being a year from doing data entry. If you've got, for instance, I know the guys that started Lexicata and then it became Clio Grow, and just being able to link that lead set. Once they hire, you click a button and it goes straight in, right? That can just save so much time and energy. And the legal malpractice defense attorney in me is saying it saves those inadvertent errors, those, typos, because if it's the initial data was correct, it just flows right on through. Somebody didn't accidentally type it in wrong or, grab the wrong data. So, so many ways that can help grow that as well. So part of this is, like how to stop the marketing train from derailing completely. I mean, I think we talked about a couple of those of have good communication, have good analysis, and look at what we can learn from those numbers to, the numbers tell a story, what we can do from it. But can you share a little bit about the need to, at least I know I talk to clients all the time about, you got to freshen up that marketing plan, a couple times a year, at least once a quarter. Like, what is our plan for the next 6 months? And what marketing vehicles will we use to spread those messages? And as you know, I use kind of the 7 buckets of marketing and kind of having an organizational method so that we can say, okay, what's our plan with social media? What's our plan with online advertising? What's our plan with written content or audio, video? Can you walk us through a little bit? I mean, I think that's part of the marketing train going off the rails is there's no freaking plan. And I know we're busy as business owners, but what do you talk to clients about to help them craft a plan or help them get back on track?
So I always go back to, you have to act like your ideal client. And so I love the concept of checking in every quarter or every 6 months on the marketing plan. I love when my clients have a coach that's going over that with them, because that's going to help from this standpoint of what things are going to happen in my client's life or in the year that will appeal to my ideal client.
Yeah.
So I usually go back to like estate planning, one of the only, proactive law things. You get into a car accident, you don't really have any control over that. But a lot of times for estate planning, we'll see things like around New Year's, New Year's resolution, get that lined up, get something set up over there. Or in Florida going into like hurricane season, people tend to be a little bit more interested in, making sure their stuff's all lined up and whatnot along those issues. And so I love that concept of figuring out if there's any specific holidays, months, times of year that are going to be the most important for you. And then if not, create it. At the end of the day, you want to come up with something that will make sense. If you can't, I don't say that you have to run some great deal on expungements for the holidays. I don't think that's the Christmas present that anybody really wants to buy, but you never know. So really thinking like them will help you kind of figure out if there's any sort of timelines on it. And so obviously, like we see towards the end of the year, a lot of clients wanting to put together some sort of marketing plan with us, with their coach, in I guess this time of year to get it ready to go in 2022.
Yeah, I will tell you last year, I think in September, October, November, I think I did like 8 full day VIP days. And it was just like, I mean, people are like, okay, Kristen, I want to sit down and have a master plan for the next 12 to 18 months. I want to know. And we'd usually spend the first half of the day working on like a visual business plan overall. And then we'd spend the afternoon just diving into that marketing plan and building it out, because it's true, especially for my business owners that are like 3 million, 6 million, they want to be in front of it. They want to have a good plan. But I also think, Jordan, it helps you as like a vendor that when somebody comes with a plan, but it also helps everyone stay accountable and stay on task to like, okay, what are our deadlines? What do we need to do versus just an open-ended, no one knows what's going on. What do you do to help the lawyers sometimes like create, you don't want to set the wrong expectations, but you want to set some kind of a like, here's where we should be in the next 6 weeks.
Yeah. And so, I mean, that's exactly how I love doing it. I think projecting more than a year out, I'm always a little hesitant about. I think from a full overall firm, you can go farther, but marketing, like the comment we got, I mean, what worked 6 months ago, what worked 6 weeks ago, what worked 6 days ago may not work. And so I always like breaking it up. You've got the year, then you've got stuff by quarters, you've got stuff by months, you've got stuff by weeks. Yeah. And so by having it go out that far, but then breaking it down into those smaller steps, we know what we need to do. If you're talking about starting an SEO or blog package and wanting to get better rankings on Google or Bing over the next 12 months, then, okay, we need to have an article a week coming out now so that by the time it gets crawled, we can build up to that. We need to look at what are going to be the Google trends coming up over the next 6 months to get the articles up about 2 to 3 weeks before those trends become popular so that it's crawled, so that it will show up. And by working that way, we can really see what are the small, easily deliverable things. And this is the same if you don't have a marketing company for you as well. I think it's really hard for that law firm owner to go, well, what do I need to do? Because the answer is almost everything. It's a lot easier to say, I want this to look like this in a year. So this in 9 months. So this in 6 months. So this in 3 months. So this next month. So this next week. And then it's like, all right, well, I need to be shooting 5 videos and posting on my social 3 times and, writing this one blog article or whatever it ends up being for the right answer for you.
And that's part of it is it's going to evolve as the business grows, as you get other people on your team. You can, a good marketing assistant can crank that wheel and keep a lot of that stuff going and consistent posting and things like that, or a marketing vendor. But it's just a matter of, first you map out a plan and then you go from there. Marcella loved that idea of the marketing assistant cranking that wheel and being consistent, being the rock star. Thank you, Marcella. Love that. So here's I know we got to wrap up. We could talk marketing all day long. And I know you and I have both dealt with a lot of train wrecks that have, or marketing trains that are about to go off the rails, and they show up and we're like, whoa, 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 let's redirect this train. What would you say to someone that is, overwhelmed, freaked out, trying to figure out their marketing? What would be their first step to kind of help slow down the train and get it back on track?
So the more desperate you are, the harder it's going to be to change whatever you're doing and get it to what works. And I understand that that is the reality that a lot of attorneys find ourselves in, that we waited too long to start marketing. We waited too long to change the marketing. We waited too long to really put this stuff together. But don't, jump out of the frying pan and into the fire by making a change super quickly, or by shutting everything off, or whatever it is along those lines. There are certainly opportunities where you were a week away from success. There are certainly opportunities that you were 3 months past the day that this had any chance at working, and you've just thrown more money out the window. So you really need to have somebody you can talk to who can look at, is it worth giving this more time or not, to give you that second opinion.
Yeah.
And hopefully you agree with them. Hopefully they've got metrics, they've got numbers, they've got the hard data. They're looking at they're analyzing, to tweak the results and whatnot along those lines. But that's the biggest thing that I would say is work with somebody who can look at what you've already got and just re-steer it a little bit, as opposed to recreating the whole thing. If that ends up being the case, it ends up being the case. But when you need cases tomorrow and next week, and you need somebody to put together a 30-second ad for you with looks super nice that they can then post on, YouTube and Hulu and whatnot to go through those things, that's going to take time to do right.
Yeah.
And that's time you may not have.
Yeah. So I love that. I mean, just get started and have someone help you analyze the marketing. There might be parts of the marketing that's not that bad. I mean, frankly, I had somebody come to me and say, "Oh my God, it's horrible." And I'm like, "You're still doing better than 70% of the lawyers out there." Like, I know that's a lower click rate or a lower whatever for you, but it's not that bad over across the whole industry. And so sometimes they just need that additional set of eyes to look at it, analyze it, and then helping them. I'm always a big fan of everything feels better with a plan. Create a little triage plan. We don't, like you said, you don't necessarily go in and cut off the leg or the arm or cut everything out. You want to decide what's most important. Where can small tweaks can really make a change. So absolutely agree with that. But awesome. So tell everybody a little bit more about it. I didn't do a very good job of explaining and sharing what you do. And I want to let people know that there are people like you that have been in this boat, and that's why you started this business, is to help others. But share what you're doing currently with legalese marketing, with helping lawyers, so that they have a better understanding of when it would be right to come to you.
Sure. And honestly, I think for all of us, somewhere between March 11th and May of last year, we were all in the same boat. So this is not something it's always interesting to me to talk to other successful business owners, successful law firm owners. There are still valleys. You just have fewer valleys and higher peaks as you continue to get all these things dialed in.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing for us really is, I created this because I couldn't find a marketing company that did things the way I wanted them to do. I have since found a number of those people. There are plenty of other people that do marketing in the area that are great. I didn't find them at the time that I needed them. I found the idiot in their parents' basement. I found the company recreating the same template for a million attorneys. I found the one that I was the only lawyer and they had no idea what to do with it. And that's who I was dealing with, who ended up costing me a bunch of money. Yeah. So we really go in, and I always tell people we go for more of that fractional CMO role than the marketing vendor role, because I don't care about the next 6 months. I care about the next 20 or 30 years. Yeah. I don't need to give you a quick fix. I need to give you the right fix. And so we will help set up the plans, or ideally review the plans when done by an awesome coach, make some of the tweaks. Maybe there's an interesting different platform that hits the same demographic that's giving us a cheaper CPM, cost per 1,000 views, something along those lines, and go through and then execute on it. But all that time, we're also trying to educate you on marketing from the standpoint of knowing what you can be doing, how you can be assisting this, as well as knowing enough to know that what we're doing is right, and then ideally showing it to you through that CRM like Lawmatics or whatnot.
Yeah. Awesome. And I love that you are your ideal client and that you get it, how frustrating it is, how irritating when people are like, they just don't get you, they don't get your industry, they don't, it's so much easier when you find the right fit and you're there with somebody who's been there, done that, and they've seen success. They know exactly how to guide you through that process. So love it, love it, love it. So what's the best way for people to find you?
Honestly, I tell everybody, connect with me on LinkedIn. So there are only 2 Jordan Ostroffs in the world. The other one is a salesperson in Boston. I'm the lawyer in Orlando. It should be easy to find us. And I post on LinkedIn at least once a day. I'm really trying to drive the free tips that people need to get to like a $500,000 a year firm, which is normally when you have the right amount of money to actually utilize a marketing company in a helpful manner.
Yeah.
If your budget is $500, I'm not going to get enough of it, or I'm going to take too much of it. It's not going to be a good fit. When your budget gets to that, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 a month, then you paying for our knowledge base can still give you a better return than you doing it on your own.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we did. The purpose of my LinkedIn is to help you get there. So we talk about referrals.
Cool.
We talk about some other things that you can do to drive that revenue, do a great job for clients, etc. And then obviously we can bring in that technical digital marketing experience.
Yeah, well, I'll definitely we'll pop in the various comments on the different platforms, the hyperlinks for connecting with you on LinkedIn if they're not already connected with me on LinkedIn. A lot of people already are, but I am sure a few of you aren't yet. So we'll definitely do that. And I love that you give that clarity of like, when is it right for somebody to come work with you and when, they need to just read your articles, listen, learn, and I tell people the same thing in the coaching world. And there are a number of people I've said, listen, you're not ready for the coaching program. Go do, and I'll give them a list of stuff to work on. It's like, when you start hitting 40, 50,000 a month, great, come back and see us. We'll be happy to, help you really scale it up and grow. But I love that you've got the integrity and honesty to tell people, listen, you're not right for us yet. Just keep doing what you're doing. Come back to us when you're ready. So love that. So cool. Well, I see Marcella popped your link in there as well. Awesome. And we'll get it on the other platforms. Jordan, thank you for jumping on and sharing those little nuggets, bite-sized nuggets for business owners. And I suspect we're going to jump back on this live stream again sometime soon, talk some more marketing, because you and I can talk marketing all day long.
Absolutely. Happy to do it.
Awesome. Okay. Have a good and productive day, everyone. Bye, Jordan. Thank you so much.